All right, we're live. So sorry for the delay, fellas. I'm actually trying to get Mike Klein in here. He's the owner of Klein Machining. He's the one that's making these AR-RPKs. But for the last like 20 minutes, we've been having some technical difficulties on and getting them inside the live chat. So again, apologize for the delay. I also going to have John from UW Gear coming on this. So those are going to be my two guests. Hopefully, we can get Mike Klein in here. But the reason I'm having John come on as well is because both these gentlemen have made what we're essentially calling the AR-RPK. It's a light support weapon essentially, and John has done a couple videos over the one he's built, and he calls it an area denial weapon. And he's going to be coming in very shortly as well. And I figured we could talk about this. We had a very good discussion not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, about the automatic rifleman billet in the U.S. military. And then towards the end of that, if you guys haven't seen it, we talked about how a civilian can essentially have, a weapon system that will facilitate that automatic rifleman billet. Because although, it's very difficult for a civilian to have a fully, full-blown automatic weapon, you can make civilian legal, at least if you live in a freedom-loving state like Texas and Florida and other states like that. You can have a civilian legal AR-RPK, and it definitely will fill the role. Even if it's just a plain Jane USGI trigger, I'm telling you guys, if you're downrange of those things, if you have the right setup, even in a semi-automatic firing capability, the effects on target are pretty devastating if you have the right setup. So, like I said, once I get John in here, we'll go in and kick that. But until they get here, guys, I'm just going to bump my gums. I just came back from Winter Forge training event hosted by SNS Training Solutions. They also have the Light Fighter Studies group out there. It was just a phenomenal training experience, guys. It was the second time I've gone to Winter Forge. It snowed while we were out there. The temperatures just were bitterly cold. It was just an all-around outstanding training event. Man, I couldn't picture it being any better. It was just phenomenal. So I got some great footage of that. I'll be working on that in the coming days and trying to put together a couple of videos off of my experiences up there. So if you missed out on that, and I know there's a lot of you that did, man, I'm telling you guys, you don't know what you're missing. Okay. Now, obviously there's a suck factor when it comes to cold weather training, but it ain't 70 degrees and sunny in combat all the time. Okay. You need to be a full spectrum warrior and be able to fight in those conditions. So just looking at some of the comments here, I see we got my From Russia with Hate individual here. He's been pissed off ever since we did the Red Dawn scenario video. Let's see what else we got. I love your winter camo demonstration. Thanks, bud. So if you don't know, last year we had the Texas snowpocalypse. I think it was the first time in 30 years Texas has had, some weather of that type of condition. And, I took advantage of it full blown. And it looks like I just got Mike in here. He is doing it looks like he's having some adjusting issues, but we'll get him here in a second. At least it looks like he's on his way. So what else we got in the comments here? I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight, by the way. All right. So I'm going to bring Mike into the chat.
Hey, guys. Can you hear me all right?
I got you, man. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome, man. I'm glad we got you in here.
Yeah, it was a little bit struggle.
What was the holdup?
I don't know. I'm using my phone.
Hey, it's working.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, now I got Mike here. Let me introduce him. So I first met Mike, and let me say, guys, Mike Klein, the guy you're seeing here, Small Team Supply, is the reason I got involved in the One Shepherd Leadership Institute. Years ago, he reached out to me and he's like, "Hey, man," he's like, I'm I work with this program that I think you'd be very much interested in. And he sent me this in an email. And at that time, there was just a couple little videos on YouTube out there about the One Shepherd Leadership Institute. They really didn't advertise very well. And I'd seen those videos incidentally. And I said to myself, man, I'd love to go up there and train with those guys, but it's all the way up in Missouri. You know, I'm here in Texas. But it wasn't until Mike reached out to me and was like, hey, man, why don't you come up, take part in one of our field training exercises? It's the final culminating event of every semester. I think you'd really enjoy it. We use Miles, laser engagement system. And so I went up there with Bruce, and the rest is history. So in any event, that's how I know Mike. Now, one of the semesters, I think it was 2018, maybe. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it was. I don't think it was your very first FTX out. It was the first time. I think you may have came from a week-long event.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What was it, like 2018?
Yeah, something like that. Something like 2018, okay. Maybe even 2017. It was. Yeah. It was somewhere in there.
I think 2017 is the first time Bruce and I went up there, and then 2018 I went up there, and I got there and they had these AR-RPKs. I mean, that's exactly what they look like, guys. You look at it and you're like, man, it looks a lot like an RPK. I think even one of them had a clubfoot buttstock, and no kidding, had RPK bipods, right? And I saw this thing and I was like, man, I've never seen anything like that before. And I just had to get my hands on it, right? And they made me an automatic rifleman. So we go through an STX, and it just happened to be the RAID STX. STX stands for Situational Training Exercise. I don't want to get on down a one shepherd rabbit hole, but essentially they set up scenarios, right, that correlate with the curriculum that's being taught, and you go and you get practical application doing those type of things. This particular one was a RAID. So I was the automatic rifleman with this AR-RPK that I'd never seen before, and they had binary triggers in it, and it was just a phenomenal little piece of gear. I had a blast. I get back to the fob, and I was like, Mike, where do these things come from? He's like, I make them. So
yeah, man. I think you were maybe one of the first guys to actually field test them. Binary triggers were just there, starting to come out, and it was something that we wanted to add to the program. And it was very early in the development cycle. We had some prior testing with, Harris bipods and things like that. And this is the first time we actually like, well, let's actually field something that militaries all over the world have already used on, FALs, on Steyr AUGs, on, RPKs, obviously, Brens. There's a lot of weapon systems have already utilized barrel mounted bipods. But the prevailing, forum guys was like, oh no, the best thing you could do for accuracy for your RPK is throw that bipod away. And it's like, it might have been something too having that barrel mounted bipod.
All right, so if you guys are just joining us, tonight's discussion is the AR-RPK. Okay. And we're talking civilian legal, all right? Because not everybody can go out and spend $20,000 to $40,000 to buy a pre-banned freaking full auto registered with the BATF. So there's a lot of ways to have a civilian legal AR-RPK or a RPK style weapon, like a light support weapon. And this ties into the live stream we had a couple weeks ago. Brought on Mike Klein. He's with Small Team Supply YouTube channel. Be sure to check him out, subscribe. But he also has his own company, Klein Machining, and he's been making these AR-RPKs for a while. I also got John with UW Gear. Appreciate you coming on tonight, brother. You guys, John, no stranger to this channel. He's been on multiple times, and John has made his own AR-RPK style weapon. That's why I wanted to bring him on tonight. And he calls it an area denial weapon. He's done several videos over it. But we'll get to John's weapon that he put together here in a minute. I want to go back to you, Mike, and go ahead and pick up, man.
Yeah. So we one of the big things that really lend it to the barrel mounted bipods was maybe not individual round accuracy, but when you start looking at automatic fires, you're looking at Kona fires. And this was something that I had a real hard time wrapping my head around coming from a rifle marksmanship background. because I was thinking MOA, MOA, MOA. And it's like, fortunately, there were some people with machine gunning backgrounds that I was friends with, like yourself, Dr. Larson, Tyler Jackson, all these great guys with machine gunning experience that I can kind of pick their brains and help kind of break me out of that, just rifle marksmanship thinking and look at cone of fire and how cone of fire has its effects downrange, maybe in a different way than how MOA, does. I mean, when you just look at, it's almost like when you're looking at a 2D target, think of it like a shotgun, like patterning your shotgun as cone of fire, rather than looking at, oh, okay, I got a dispersion here and here, and then that's bad having this much dispersion. Is actually a benefit to have a useful size cone of fire.
Yeah, I want to touch on this comment somebody posted out there. So, Outer Haven Paintball, man, I know you've been watching my channel for years. I appreciate you coming on tonight, man. And he says that the RPK style AR is pretty ideal when you consider armed prepared citizen who might not be able to afford anything bell fit. I want to point out that, so when we're talking AR-RPK, like we're comparing it to an RPK, right? A automatic rifle, typically for an automatic rifleman. And if you watched that stream we did a couple weeks ago, like we talk what is an automatic rifle, and we all kind of agreed that automatic rifle is a magazine-fed weapon system, not the M249 squad automatic weapon. Although that weapon was put in that role, that's a light machine gun, not an automatic rifle. So we're talking about having think BAR, when you're thinking automatic rifle or the M27 IAR. That's kind of what we're looking at here. So anyways, John, welcome aboard, man. Why don't you give us a little preface on your aerial denial weapon that you came up with, or excuse me, area denial.
Yes. Sorry for running late. It's been one of those days and finishing up work, and I'm eating dinner while I'm getting on here with you. That's the kind of day it's been. So, but yeah, so kind of got the idea a few years back, and it just took me a while to implement it. And the M27 was kind of like further inspiration. I had the idea, and then the Marines come out with the M27. It's like, oh, okay, so it's not a crazy idea after all, because I was hearkening back to the idea of the BAR, the RPK, magazine-fed weapon that takes the same round and same magazines that the rest of the team is using with regular rifles. And as much as I love the RPK, I was kicking myself for not getting one back when they were more affordable than they are now. And again, for the armed citizen role, I always felt like it didn't have to be fully automatic to be effective. And people seem to either lose their minds about that or not be able to wrap their head around that. I don't need full auto fire in that role to suppress you. If you don't believe me, it can be done. All I need is potentially a larger magazine starting out, such as a 75 round drum and an RPK, or in my case, what I do in my AR, the D60 drum mag from Magpul. The Russians run the 40 round mags in the RPKs. You've got the 40 round P mags from Magpul for ARs, etc. It was almost more important with what I was going for that it not be full auto, which I couldn't afford anyway. So it was kind of a moot point. But being a closed bolt gas impingement weapon versus an open bolt and or piston driven weapon, you wanted to keep that rate of fire way down so that you don't risk overheating the barrel, overheating the gas tube, whatever. In semi-auto fire, 1 round a minute, you can suppress somebody that's behind cover. Guys think that's slow. And my challenge has always been to them, get behind cover and let somebody ping around off of it every second. Ping, ping, ping. Let me know when you want to poke your head up or move. Right? Most people are going to stay put until they don't hear the ping anymore. So then when you start throwing the idea of like what Mike was doing originally, the binary triggers, that sort of thing, then you start to still keep the ability to maintain that rate of fire. Although even with the binaries, you still got to be careful to not get too carried away with it, because you can go through some rounds in a hurry if you're not paying attention. But again, the idea behind I picked just an area denial gun was just that, something that I could have on a bipod with a couple of big mags behind a sandbag fortune overlooking an area that I wanted to deny you the use of, be it, you know, an avenue of approach, whatever. Thinking without giving away too much detail, some very specific situations for my use and situations, but then just overall in general for anybody that had given area that you just wanted to deny somebody the easy use. So I just went with a regular 10-inch AR, went with a Magpul bipod on a free floater handguard just to get as much swirling around the barrel as possible, and just kept it simple. I mean, and it's done extraordinarily well. It's a regular GI profile 20 barrel. If I had to change one thing on it, I would probably upgrade to a full profile heavy barrel, just for that little extra bit of rigidity and heat capacity handling. A lot of people don't think, though, the downside to a thicker barrel is, yeah, it's slower to heat up, but once it heats up, then it's slower to cool off. So it's a trade-off. That's kind of the route that I went with it. Didn't put a lot of money in it. Simple 20-inch that, you know, I wasn't looking for match grade accuracy out of. I wasn't looking for anything. It ended up being a stupidly accurate barrel, but that, you know, kind of beside the point. I had an ACOG that was not on anything at the moment. I got thinking, you know what? 4-power ACOG is a perfect fit for what I'm using it for my area. It gives me a little bit of magnification for that, you know, 200 to 300 yards and closer to what I was working with. Good field of view that the ACOG has. Wasn't overly worried about the eye release. You're going to be sandbag behind it anyway. And nothing there to turn on or turn off with the ACOG. So I thought that's how I run on it. And it's never had to actually use it, but it does great in practice.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the ACOG, John. And matter of fact, I'm going to pull up mine right here. So it was a fantastic little piece of gear.
Yep.
And if you guys go watch the video I did a few years ago over the Klein machining upper you see there, I actually have a full auto lower in my family, and I slapped it onto that, and it ran like a freaking typewriter. Sewing machine. It ran like a sewing machine. It was unbelievable. Yeah. And I was able to hold tight group burst very accurately. And Klein's uppers, as you guys can see, have that heavy barrel. Mike, can you speak as to like some of the specs and why you went with the barrels that you used and some of the different options that you have on yours?
Yeah, so at first I started with, you know, whatever I can get my hands on, which predominantly was nitrided bull barrels. And then two things came about. One was my supply, especially after the election cycle occurred, my supply of those bull barrels completely dried up. So I couldn't find stock to adapt anymore. So And also in the meantime, one of my biggest criticisms was I wasn't offering a chrome lined barrel. And so I kind of did two birds with one stone. I went and I placed a very large order for some custom barrels that are chrome lined and have that heavy profile. And I need the heavy profile for two reasons. One, with that barrel mounted bipod, you have to have that enhanced rigidity to be able to support that without having massive point of impact shifts. I had tried previously to create these uppers with a not even a government profile barrel, but just a heavy profile barrel, where it thinned down quite a bit after the gas block, and even that was having some deflection issues. So I needed a heavy profile the entire length of the barrel in order to support that bipod.
Can you answer this question, Mike? Guys asking about a gas tube being thicker than standard.
So, so one of the things I addressed that is I changed the material of that gas tube. V7s, they make an Inconel gas tube, and that's what ships with all my uppers now. And if you don't know Inconel, it's a super, super high temp material that's not going to melt on you at all.
And what about what about the whole bipods, you know, being attached? Because you actually machine into the barrel to mount your bipods.
Yep. So, so different bipod types need different machining work. If you look at some of my M60 bipods, or look at the M60 machine gun itself, it has a shelf behind the bipod, and that's what it uses to index its rotation point, so it doesn't, you know, do a 360 around the barrel like I think some of the BARs and stuff like that initially had that, and that was kind of an issue for guys. I think InRange even did a video showing the issues with a bipod that's allowed to just freely rotate. So it's important to have some kind of limit on there. So the M60 bipod needs one way to limit its rotation. The RPK needs another way. And then the AUG needs another way. So I kind of had to develop a whole bunch of different methods for attachment and how to get these to work for the AR-15.
What were you going to say, John?
I was just going to mention something to what Mike was saying, and somebody in the comments actually mentioned it too. By him using the Inconel gas tubes, the only thing that you got to be careful there with is you got to watch your rate of fire, because in an AR system, the gas tube is always the weak point. You'll melt and blow out the gas tube ideally before you mess up your barrel. So with the better gas tube, you got to watch that rate of fire. But I like the better gas tube personally.
So here's one thing I want to address about that. So the first thing is, the thing that's going to stop you from firing generally is going to be cook-offs. You're going to heat that sucker up so hot that it's going to be unsafe to use, because as soon as you chamber around, it's going to pop. And generally at that point, you just stop shooting. The other thing is, it's a super heavy barrel profile, so it takes way longer for that whole system to heat up.
I was thinking more just damage in the throat, you know, getting it so hot that you're prematurely burning out the throat on it. But again,
well, and that's what the chrome lining
is. Got to change magazines, so you're limiting that rate of fire a little bit versus like a belt fed. So
yeah, no, exactly right. A belt fed, the open bolt, what really makes it shine as opposed to a closed bolt is open bolt allows you to melt your freaking gun into the ground. And being a closed bolt, since you get those cook-offs, it's kind of like an early warning of, oh, okay, like like that happens before the barrel even generally starts glowing there. So that's your early warning now, is the cook-offs instead of the gas tube popping. Right.
So that all said, getting a 20-inch upper from Mike has been high on my list once I can scrounge up the scratch. So.
Yeah, well, absolutely. The standard.
I've got an extra lower here that don't have anything on it, and it feels kind of lonely. So.
I think it's important to note, guys, though, that, you know, we're talking, you know, automatic rifle, right? Automatic rifleman role, not necessarily a machine gunner, right? So it's like you're not, right. Although an automatic rifleman could be tasked with, you know, setting in a support by fire, that's generally reserved for something like a belt-fed medium machine gun, right? Your automatic rifleman, he's integrated into the fire team. Like he's part of that. He's part of the I'm up, he sees me, I'm down, I'm closing with the enemy, right? So he's not going to be sitting, essentially, unless you actually task him with a support by fire position, he's going to be closing with the enemy. He's not going to be sitting there continuously burning magazines left, one after the other, and then he's using the magazines on his person, right? Unless you're in the defense and you got like riflemen tossing him magazines to use too. We're not talking about someone that's got cans of 200 rounds. So it's like you got to think about he's closing with the enemy. He's up. He's moving. He's not sitting there firing continuously. All that's given the weapon system time to cool down, and it's not sitting there continuously firing. I mean, if you're firing to the point where we're talking like gas tubes blowing up and barrels melting and stuff, like have the Chinese invaded America? Like what's going on? Because we're talking about civilian use, right?
Well, that's why I said for my use, it is from a fixed position. Now I could maneuver with it if I needed to, but just due to situation, manpower, location, etc., I'm using it in a support by fire role. But that's where the D60 works out great for me because I get 1 minute of sustained fire at 1 round per second. If I needed a small fire team to maneuver on someone that I had pinned down, they could. But again, a lot of that's real unique to what I'm doing with it, my situation, and not so much like what Mike's doing with his and everything. So,
right. So, if we were to put broad categories, it sounds like your rifle may be a little bit more of a DMR. So you got that free flow tube, you got that good rigidity, you got that good optic on there, and you got that lower rate of fire where you're able to do the precision fires you need, and you can keep those precision fires up with that extra ammunition capacity. If you hear like Dark Larson talk about the use of a automatic rifle, a lot of that is to go after crew served assets such as machine guns, mortars, rocket teams, anyone that's in a small team, a little cluster that you can give it a nice little, burst cone of fire and just kind of chew up everything that's standing right next to each other. And that's the money for this system. Now it can flex into other capacities, obviously. But that's what its intention is, thinking of patterning a shotgun. You get that nice shotgun blast right in the sweet spot, so to speak, and you can just take out that target, boom, all at once, as opposed to having to suppress it a long period of time.
Well, that's why I've been playing with a trigger in mind, just to get it to do more of just that. So I can leave it in my emplaced position, or I can pick it up and go with it if I need to, and it'll cover multi-roles. So a little bit of versatility there.
Right, absolutely. I mean, it's really two kind of schools of thought on how to attack this problem.
Sorry, I was just looking at the comments real quick.
Yeah, I know. I get sucked into reading some of them too. I think the big key thing is we have to remember the purpose of this weapon system, right? Again, it's not a machine gun. It has those higher volumes of fire when needed, but it's also a rifle, right? You can take those well-aimed shots, okay? And I'm going to share my screen here in a second. Give me 1 second. I lost it. Y'all fill in the gaps while I pull this up.
I mean, like I said, it there you go.
All right. So you're looking at this, right? Does that look like a machine gun to you? I mean, it don't look like a machine gun to me. It looks like an automatic rifle, right? Mm-hmm. So
sadly, to a lot of people, yes, it does look like a machine gun, but educated, no, it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, to those people, anything with a magazine over 10 rounds and a telescoping stock, exactly. bipod. This is a machine gun.
Yeah.
Anything,
But I mean, look
anything
at
other
this,
than the daddy deer rifle is a machine gun.
right? But this is like clearly this is a portable weapon, right? Easily portable weapon, and it's very well suited for an automatic rifleman role. And if needed, you can deploy those bipods, get that shoulder pressure into those bipods, and just even if you have a standard USGI semi-automatic trigger, firing that cone of fire is going to be pretty concise. And I'm telling you guys, the beaten zone downrange from even a semi-automatic AR-RPK like this is going to be pretty impressive, and is definitely going to suppress an enemy target. With that said, I want to segue into, I know both of you two gentlemen, because I've seen your videos, have experimented with some of these new triggers that have come out recently that kind of simulate automatic fire in a sense. They get very close. I don't want to, say too much because I know the evil people are watching, but let's talk about those options, because those are absolutely viable options. I mean, these things have gone way beyond bump stocks, the feared evil bump stocks that even former President Trump tried to ban, mind you.
Yeah, correct.
Let's talk about those triggers.
So you actually were partaking in some of our early testing at One Shepherd with the Fostech trigger and the Franklin Armory trigger, and we kind of saw firsthand some of the issues we had with that Franklin trigger, in that you'd actually pull it too fast and override your action, and you start getting hammer follows, which is a big deal when you're in contact. May not be such a big deal when you're in the range, but when you're contacting, you have a stoppage, and the stoppage is something that you can, and it's equipment related that is solvable just by choosing a different manufacturer's stuff. It kind of drives the point of who you want to be purchasing from. But one of the great things with the binary triggers is you can kind of on the fly regulate your rate of fire to, like what John was saying, a little slower rate of fire to keep the enemy's heads down, or if you were to get rushed by a whole bunch of guys at the same time, you can kind of increase that rate of fire quite quickly just by how you would normally do with a regular semi-automatic trigger. You just pump your finger a little faster, and then you got a doubled rate of fire with that type of trigger. And then the new let's call them forced reset triggers that are out there, a couple manufacturers making them. You kind of right now, I've heard they're actually coming out with a trigger that's select fire, in that you have the enhanced features or the standard semi-automatic features. I don't believe that's released yet. That just kind of is breaking news, I guess. But the ones that are out there right now, it's only a 2-position selector, off, safe, and the new style of semi-automatic fire that this thing's capable of.
Hey Mike, this guy commented. He's like, "Hey, I was looking to get one of those uppers a while back and couldn't find anything. Is the guy who made them still around?" Can you answer?
Yeah. You can find me on Facebook, Klein Machining LLC, or you can email me at kleinmachiningllc at gmail.com, and we'll talk.
What's your experience with those triggers, John?
So kind of same thing as what Mike was saying with the binary type stuff. You got to be kind of mindful of how you're modulating that trigger, because you can get hammer follows, which best case scenario gives you a light primer strike. It's very rare. I want to catch it, very rare, but I have seen a couple of cases of getting out of battery detonations because of the hammer follow. But I think that's so slim as to probably not be really an honest concern. I really prefer the forced reset trigger, and I found it to be a little bit smooth operating, a little bit better control over it, maybe for lack of a better word. The catch with the force reset is you've got to have the right buffer and good ammunition. And by good, I don't mean expensive. I mean 5.56 pressured ammo, because you've got to cycle the bolt good, because with the way it works, it's the cycling of the bolt that pushes the hammer down on the lever, which forces the reset. So it's got to have that good solid rearward movement of the bolt carrier group. And then you've got to have like at least an H2, H3 buffer, so you get a better dwell time and lockup time to slow that rate down a little bit, and then good lockup and rechambering at the same time, because your bolt carrier is starting to do a lot of stuff then. For people that don't understand, and just to put the record straight up front, a forced reset trigger is just that. It is not a machine gun. It's not fully automatic. You are pulling the trigger once for every single round that leaves the barrel. You can actually feel the trigger resetting on your finger every time it shoots. It's resetting the trigger. I don't know how to explain it any other way. It's no different than you just firing it really fast. In fact, theoretically, you could just get a really, really light match grade trigger, and if you just got really good dexterity in your finger and you kind of keep it loose in your shoulder, you can just about mimic the same thing. Not as consistently, but that's all it's doing. It's just got a very short, light reset to it, just like a match grade trigger would, and a short pull. It's not really anything voodoo or anything. Kudos to somebody for thinking it up, for sure. But I'm hoping they don't get too much negative attention, which, of course, that's probably wishful thinking, but I would personally like to see about 4 or 5 different companies making them and just selling the snot out of them, because the more of them that get out there, the better.
Right. Isn't that the case? Isn't that the case for AR-15s? I mean, they've just, so many people have them now. Like, I just can't picture the left.
It's a really hard argument to say, yeah, we've got enough manpower to be bothered with this.
Right. Yeah, I mean, even the courts have ruled that it's common. It's common use now.
Well, I mean, almost all our hunting rifles and everything are based off military rifles. All the bolt action rifles that are out there, they're all military Mauser action, or at least that's where a lot of them started, like the Remington 700s and things like that. Later they kind of got a little bit more civilized, whatever. But their roots were in a military rifle, and the AR-15 is no different in that category.
Right.
Talking about those force reset triggers, there actually was a guy or a trigger system that came out before these full force reset triggers, and that was, I think, the TACCON trigger, and that kind of just did a half reset. It was a reset assist. So these guys just kind of took it to the next level, and they went full reset. But no, I agree with you 100%. The binary triggers in particular, there is some tuning involved in some of those, but with the force reset, there is a lot more tuning. And I think part of that is just because of how fast you can actually pull that trigger. You start really incurring problems from bolt bounce. And what bolt bounce is the bolt closes and you have they call it a elastic collision. So the bolt will actually hit the bolt or a barrel and bounce back a little bit, and the hammer will drop, and you'll have hammer follow and a light primer strike. So if you got a heavy enough buffer, and what a buffer does is it acts like a dead blow hammer. So it helps keep all that mass forward and create what they call a inelastic collision. So it hits and everything drives forward. And what I found also is the lighter the rifle you have, the lighter the buffer it can be, and you'll still have those inelastic collisions. If you have a heavier rifle, you're going to have a heavier buffer in order to keep that bolt closed.
Yep. You can find some really good slow motion videos on YouTube and elsewhere of both AR standard lockup ARs and then like 9mm blowback ARs, where you can really see that bolt bounce happening. Other thing I'll throw in there too, just so that people don't think that this is just a instant Yahoo. So like the one that I was playing with, we found that my youngest son, he's all bone and muscle, right? He doesn't have a lot of fat on him, and his light body weight would literally let the gun recoil enough and have just enough motion in it that he would get those light primer strikes because of the bolt bounce. And that's where some of the tuning come in, of having to get the right weight buffer in it and all that to mitigate the lighter body weight. Whether people want to admit it or not, that plays a role in controlling that. And it's not how manly you can be on it. It's just simple physics and mass and inertia. So it's all stuff that's got to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how firmly you're holding that rifle to where, you know, you and the rifle become one piece. Like I know, for example, like I was just talking about, the lighter weight rifles can use a lighter buffer. Well, I'll tell you what, if you sling up, like put a GI loop sling on that rifle, really lash it down tight to your arm, get your sling good and taut, lean into that freaking rifle. Now, because you're so tight into it, your body weight and the rifle are inseparable. So yeah, you're going to need a heavier buffer now to operate that lighter weight rifle.
Yeah.
It's every machine gunner learns these fundamentals. Like it's shoulder pressure, right? You're leaning into this weapon, and you have those bipods, you know, fixed, and you're leaning into it, and it drastically controls the beaten zone and the cone of fire of these weapons. And again, you know, if you're joining this chat late, I said earlier, go check out my original video I did about this AR-RPK made by Klein Machining, where I actually shoot this thing full auto, and you can see just the tight, you know, from 100 yards away, I'm shooting a burst, right? And the burst is like hitting the torso right there, a nice controlled burst, maybe 6 to 8 rounds. You know, it's just because, you know, I was a machine gunner as a young Marine. Like I have that shoulder pressure and leaning into that weapon system and controllability like ingrained into me. And it was super, super accurate in terms of automatic fire. So,
yeah.
And another thing I want to say,
that in mind, you can keep some pretty, especially if you try to keep it like 3 to 4 round strings. You can keep them pretty doggone close together, especially if you're locked in on it real good. It can be fun from an accuracy standpoint.
Yeah. And, you know, like I was saying, like, it doesn't have to be full auto. You know, if you had this binary trigger, you can get the same effects. And Dr. Larson, on the stream we had a couple weeks ago talking about the automatic rifleman, he was talking about, like, he thinks the binary trigger is superior to full auto, just because of, you know, the manner in which it's firing. It's not, you know, consistent full auto. It's, you know, pop, 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 pop. And he thinks guys are more accurate that way. But man, at One Shepherd, you know, One Shepherd has fully integrated these light support weapons with binary triggers into their curriculum, and they're a part of every One Shepherd fire team. And at this last 40th semester, when I had a freaking platoon that I was in charge of during the FTX, we had a position. I put a position on our furthest western flank, and it literally, Mike,
Yeah.
dude, you're like,
Oh shoot. Okay, sorry about that. I was replying to the comments. Freaking mechanical keyboard.
yeah, I know, man. I know it's your first live stream, but dude, you gotta.
Sorry about that, brother. Okay. All right. Sorry, dude. I'm not gonna reply to your comment.
No, you can't. You can just mute your mic in the app and go to town.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Dude, it sounded like an old news studio from like the
Yeah, you had a
80s.
binary keyboard. It's a binary keyboard, man.
Anyways, what I was saying is this machine gun position like wiped out like freaking 20 enemy Blue 4 guys that were trying to launch a full blown assault. Just him, this one guy. So
two things. One, just to answer the one dude in the comment, Josh Little. That question's been answered, dude. Yes, Mike's uppers have an incontinental gas tube, which has a much higher temp rating than a standard gas tube. So yes, it is different. You don't have to keep asking the question 5 million times. It's been answered.
Thanks, John. I think that was the guy I was actually going to reply to. So appreciate it.
No, the third barrel does not allow the gas tube to be straight. The gas tube's never going to be straight because of the relation of where the gas port and gas blocks add on the barrel in relation to the upper.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the, if you look at some of the Colt LMGs that they had in the early 80s, and Colt Canada actually still makes these as well. They actually have a proprietary gas block that's raised up a little bit higher than a standard gas block, and then they run a straight gas tube that's a little bit thicker. Now, the reason why I went with the standard size gas block is this gives you options to, if you want to at some point put a adjustable gas block or change them out or something like that, that lets you do it just by changing the material of the gas tube, and then everything's still standardized.
Well, not to mention handguard options too, because as long as you're using a standard gas block, you've got a wide range of handguards options. When you get that taller gas block that Colt was using, you're very, very limited on what you can use handguard wise if you're going to have something covering the gas block. So.
I don't mean to get off topic, but I had to read this. It says a trans trigger is a full auto trigger that identifies a semi-auto. Why can't we use this when talking about gun control?
We might have a point there. That actually,
I think so.
They're using their own words against them, right?
Hey man, I'll go woke if that means I can have full auto.
Be careful what you say. Your words may come back to haunt you.
All right, so I want to segue now into round capacity. So obviously, if you're carrying, something like an AR-RPK, you might consider carrying something a little bit bigger than a 30-round standard magazine. Although you can, absolutely, and like the Marine Corps with the M27 IAR, they have standard capacity magazines. They just carry freaking 20 of them. All right. But there are other options. And I'm going to bring mine back up here again. And I'm just going to say right off the bat, do not use a beta mag. They are terrible. They are not reliable. But there is one. There is an example of a drum. But I know these other guys have some examples of like Magpul D60s. And, I've used the Magpul 40-round magazines in them, and they fed very reliably. So what's your guys' experiences?
Yeah, I haven't used the beta mags just because the reputation precedes it, so to speak, and I steered clear. The D60s have proven reliable to me with ball ammunition. I've had some success on the range, so to speak, with blanks out of the D60, but I was right there with Winter Forge with you, patrolling, and yeah, that thing failed on me right in contact, freaking failed on me. So I don't think I can trust it with blanks, with M200 blanks anymore. But the running the standard P mags, 40-round P mags. If you're going to go 40 rounder, I really think that's kind of your best option. Again, some of those old school steel and aluminum 40 rounders just didn't have the best reputation, but the PMAG 40 is very reliable. One of the issues you're going to incur with that though is your elevation. It's going to want to go monopod on you a lot faster. So you got to be mindful of that if you're going to be shooting at an elevated position. Depending on how elevated it is in comparison to yourself.
Yeah, terrain's definitely a factor in that, because like one of my favorites is is the 40 round PMags. And I've got a bunch of individual ones, but then I also keep some with a mag coupler like that, so that if I have to mobile, I've got two 40s right there together for quick change. The D60 has been completely reliable for me with live ammo. I have not tried it with blanks yet, but at our next patrolling class, I'm probably going to try it, even though I already know there's probably a high chance it's not going to work, but I'm a glutton for punishment, want to try it anyway. So then I can go back and say, yep, Mike was right. It sucks. And I think that's going to be the case because of that shorter blank casing, the overall length. I think it's going to start dragging on the front and bind up in there if that wasn't what happened to you.
Yeah, I got to do the post-mortem on it again, but you know, I just got back from recovering, or at least starting my recovery of Winter Forge, so I haven't really got into the technical you know, tear down.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Mike. My legs are shot, man. that last assault we did, dude, that was a movement.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think if we would have just gone up the hill, you know, and we would have had our contact and you know, took that ground, and that was it, probably been okay. But patrolling all the way back down the hill again, and then having the firefight with a very mobile enemy, yeah, that was tough, very tough physically.
As Brent already knows, I kind of had a little weekend getaway with some of my folks, and so I was doing it with a potentially blown out disc in my back already hurting, and then I ended up breaking a rib over the weekend to boot on top of it. So, yeah, so that was a trip to the doctor this morning, and in his words, "Your job security." And I'm like, well, I appreciate that. So, yeah, that's what I got right now. The blown disc rib. Been working all day after the doctor, and it's fun with ribs. If you've never had busted ribs, this isn't my first trip, unfortunately. Ribs are weird because they're connected to every single part of your body. Like, you can wiggle your toe, it will hurt. Blink your eye on that side, it will hurt. And for some reason, everything becomes funnier when you have a broke rib. It becomes funnier. Then you just want to laugh for no particular reason, and it sends you into orbit. Don't recommend. So I sympathize with your legs, Brent.
Well, what else we got? I know on mine I put the 45-degree offset sights, but that's mainly because I'm running an ACOG. At Winter Forge this past weekend, I ran a 1X Cyclops, and you know, that had backup iron sights in it, and it was funny, man. My backup iron sights actually had ice in them. At one point, I remember looking at it, the peep side, dude, it was completely covered in ice. So,
yeah, man,
I'm covered in ice and filled up with mud.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, in Winter Forge, I was having to take a cigarette lighter to thaw out my magazine catch, my forward assist, my dust cover, and I had to basically mortar the freaking charging handle open to bust that ice off the rifle.
Yeah, that was pretty eye-opening out there. So, let's see. What else we got? What else we got on this subject?
On the subject, continue what you're saying, and I say things that iron sights are this absolutely fail-proof, nothing can ever go wrong with a thing, and I have never had them in the conditions that you guys have had them in, but I have had them get, because of our humidity, little droplets of ice crystals in the rear peep sight. I have more often than that had them filled up with mud and clay. It's a thing. You better learn how to clear the sights out, just as you taking and clearing out the front of an optic, because Murphy's Law, it can and does happen more often than probably a lot of people admit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's one thing Les was talking about. One of the advantages of the old traditional blade sights is they're easier to clean out if you get guck in them or ice in them. You know, even though the peep sight is superior because it helps focus your eye and everything, you know, for, you know, just shit happens. The old blade sights are better in that regards.
They work.
Here we go.
Yeah.
I got one. What's ideal barrel length? I know you offer two different options, and then John, I'm sure you got a different barrel length as well.
Yeah. So I'll do any barrel length you want down to 18 inches because it's a rifle length gas system, and then past 18 inches, it'll just have problems cycling. So I'll do any one you want. The AUG bipod, it got to have the 24-inch barrel just because it hugs that barrel so close. It got to have bare barrel to be up against. It's not, if you got a handguard there, it's just going to be incompatible with it. The M60 bipod, it's wider. And can kind of slip around it, so you can have a shorter barrel on that. RPK, once you start getting past 19 inches, you're not going to have a nice place to put your hand on the handguard because it's underslung. As far as my preference, I actually like the 24-inch barrel. You get, especially with the barrel mounted bipod at the muzzle, you get that much more leverage. So if you think about the physics equation, you got a fulcrum, and you know you're controlling it. The rifle on the other end of that pivot point, so you got a lot more control over what's going on the muzzle with the 24-inch barrel. Also, you know, it's debated depending on ammunition, you may possibly get a little bit better velocity out of the 24-inch barrel over a 20-inch barrel. I know there's a lot of data out there, and I haven't sifted through all of it, but I looked at a bunch of it, and it's either equivalent or more. The 20-inch barrel, obviously, that's the standard that we've all been used to for a rifle length, and you're pretty good to go with that as well. So you get a little bit more maneuverability as you go shorter barrel. But the 24, I think you get the best control.
Yeah, going back to what you're talking about and like balance. Look at how well balanced this weapon is right here. You know, just me holding it in the carrying handle. Right. I mean, it's like completely parallel.
Me, I'm an 18 and 20-inch guy, and that's primarily due to my terrain. In fact, I would almost go 60-inch with a mid-length, just because my terrain is so freaking thick, hard to maneuver through, that everything past 20, really past 18, is just becomes a real pain in the butt to try to maneuver with. 20 inch is what I went with on mine, just because, quite honestly, from what I was looking at, that was what was in stock and on sale at the time that I did that options that I was happy with. But I think a lot of that'll just, you know, somewhat personal preference, somewhat terrain specific. I mean, other than that, I mean, it's kind of which one tickles your fancy the most.
Mike, can you answer this comment here?
Yeah. So I reviewed a whole bunch of data. You know, if you look at Brent's original review video, there's actually in the description box, I sent him an email on this, and it got tons of links, all these places you can look at graphs and, you know, all these different websites that talk about the data. And to pare it all down, what I saw is, depending on what ammunition you're shooting, depending on the time of day, weather, whatever, the 24-inch barrel, as far as velocity goes, is going to be the same as a 20-inch barrel. Different ammunition, different day, whatever, it's going to have more velocity. So it's going to be the same or better as far as performance goes. But what I'm saying is, with a barrel mounted bipod setup, you're going to have more control over the rifle. So that's where you're going to have your assured gains. And then the velocity thing, maybe you'll get it, maybe you won't.
Yeah, the control aspect definitely makes sense.
Well, I kind of like I'm a fan of your original ones, Mike, but I just got the new one I got from you is 20-inch, right?
No, that's 24. That's 24.
Oh, it is 24?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I was gonna say maybe I can compare them, but
well, I can cut you down to 24-inch, and we can put them side by side.
I really like that 24. Man, I'm telling you, after shooting that sucker full auto, and just seeing how controllable it was, I mean, it was a freaking typewriter, guys. It was so smooth. It was so smooth.
Oh yeah, man. Seeing your video of you shooting that 24-inch barrel RPK upper barrel versus some of the other guys, there's videos out there of them shooting other types of setups. It's night and day difference as far as the performance, downrange, cone of fire, impacts, on target at 100 freaking yards, fully automatic fire. I mean, very freaking impressive.
Well, it's like if you go and shoot, your standard, M4 platform, and then you shoot a standard, 20-inch A2 style platform, M16 A2 style platform, like you can totally feel how much smoother that 20-inch rifle is. Now, times that maybe by 2, and that's what it feels like when you shoot this 24-inch, man. I'm telling you, it's like nothing. It is crazy.
Yeah, and the other thing is you got to think of the escaping gases is going to be diminished as well. So it's going to have a little bit less rapport. You're going to have better, cleaner burn, so there's not going to be as much flash. I mean, so there's a lot of other benefits that are associated with that longer barrel length, besides just velocity. But to John's point, it's going to be terrain and what you're doing with it dependent, right? I mean, if you're kicking doors, yeah, I don't think 24-inch barrel is for you. And if you're in super, super thick stuff that you can't hardly walk through anyways, then maybe you don't want that, longer length. Maybe you do need something that'll fit in the profile of your body. If you're in places that are a little bit more open, maybe even like older growth forests, like it is in Missouri, there's a mix, right? Some stuff's pretty thick, some stuff's pretty open. I think the 24 is fine for that.
Well, all right, guys. Well, I think we've talked this to the end here. If anybody's got some questions in the comment section, we might can entertain a few of those questions before we wrap this up. So what you guys got? Let's see. What about a double chrome line barrel made by FN? Any accuracy advantage?
Well, my understanding is with the chrome line, you actually lose accuracy compared to just a nitride or whatever. The double chrome, I don't know. I mean, it really depends on their process, how well it's applying, because flaking is the biggest thing you're worried about. So now you double your layers. Is that going to cause you, bigger chunks of, if it does delaminate, is it going to be a bigger problem? I don't really know what the advantage is. FN, their biggest claim to fame is the hammer forged barrels. That's supposed to help out. But my thinking on that is, the chrome is what's getting all the wear, not necessarily the barrel steel, and by the time your chrome wears out, your barrel's shot anyway. So I'm not sure at this time what the advantage of the hammer forged is over just a regular chrome line barrel. Maybe someone can enlighten me in the future as to that, but I just don't see it at this time.
The only thing with the chrome line barrels, remember, to do a chrome line barrel, they have to make the bore larger than what the caliber is they're making out for the chrome lining. So if you're doing a double thick gun barrel, it's going to be that much larger, and that's where the inconsistencies come in that could potentially degrade accuracy, which is where a chrome line barrel less accurate and a nitride one, because a nitride one is cut exactly to bore diameter that it needs to be, because the nitriding is a treatment to the metal, not an application of additional metal. So while it's not a guarantee that it's going to have great accuracy, in a machine gun belt fed, you're not overly worried about super tight MOA accuracy anyway. So that's why that's not a deal. So for like what you're doing and what I'm talking about, I think just the standard chrome barrel, in my case, mine's a nitrided barrel, you could get away with it just fine.
Yeah, and it goes back to, also it took a long time to, like I said, talking about MOA, to change my thinking about MOA versus cone of fire, because the two schools of thought, as closely as they're linked, it's just different. Thinking beat-in zones, thinking dispersion, it's all, going from that marksmanship background. You always want, super tight MOA, but with
Right.
Rapid fire, it's sometimes advantageous for it to open up just a little bit, so
I'm the same way. Coming from a marksmanship background, I had to wrap my head around the whole. Okay, this doesn't a tight gun. It doesn't even need to be 3 MOA. If it's 5 MOA, that's still going to be plenty good for the role that it's used in. So,
right, absolutely. And if you need a rifle to be super tight, well, that's a kind of different role, so to speak. That's your DMRs.
right.
So you're going to build your rifle a little bit differently for that application versus this application. And I think part of the problem is when you just kind of look at it on paper, so to speak, and visually, they may look very similar, a DMR versus an automatic rifle, versus a standard rifle. They all look, they're all rifles at the end of the day, right? So it's just that nuance of what role are you trying to fulfill with the weapon at hand, and then tuning it in for that purpose.
I want to answer another question that I saw in there, and the question was, were semi-automatic belt feds worth it? So I'm going to answer this, and I'm going to turn over to Mike because I know he's got one. So I own 2 semi-automatic belt feds, and I would say unless they're based off of a military machine gun that you just absolutely love and you want in your life, I don't think it's worth it. So I've got an M1919, and then I got a Yugoslavian M19 or M57 or M53. Sorry, that's based off of the MG42, and I have those guns just for the nostalgia of having them, and that's essentially it. I don't think a semi-automatic belt fed is worth it in a a new configuration per se. Because it's just what's the practicalness of that, right? It runs off of, especially if it runs off disintegrating links. Like, how are you going to resupply those links when you run out of them, right? Because those suckers just get ejected onto the ground. My Yugoslavian, it has a the non-disintegrating German style, but still, once those kick out, are you in combat? Or are you going to reach down and pick those expended links back up? So my opinion is no. If you're looking at something that's particularly this role, I wouldn't go for like the Shrikes and those type of systems. I would go for something that's magazine fed, or that can also double as drum fed. That's my opinion. What do you guys have to say about that?
Well,
go ahead, Mike.
Okay, so I actually have ran. Well, I got 2 now as well. One's not put together yet, but the one I have been using has been the same rifle that Brent has, is the Yugo semi-auto. And the thing, I was right out of the bat, if you're wanting to get one of these semi-automatic belt feds, don't get one that was originally designed as an open bolt gun. Get something that was closed bolt gun, right? I've had nothing but problems with this freaking open bolt gun that was converted to closed bolt.
Yeah, me too.
The 1919 I think is the way to go, because that actually was a closed bolt gun out of the gate. Problem is, it's a clunky dude. Like the ergonomics of that MG42 semi-auto is far superior. But I actually have ran it at One Shepherd in simulated engagements, and this is my feeling on it. If you have an AG that is linking you in belts of ammunition, one of the nice things is your gun just stays up. It just stays up. So that's really, because how the game kind of works is kind of like whack-a-mole, right? You can either be the mole that is, popping up, shooting a couple rounds, disappears, and then pops back up and shoots a couple of rounds. Or you can be the hammer, and the hammer just stays up and stays ready. And having that AG linking in you belts, you can stay as that hammer ready to strike permanently. And that slow rate of fire, like John was talking about, isn't necessarily terrible to have when things are moving slowly, when there's, as I see it, if you are an aircraft mounted machine gun, you need to be super fast because everything's going by like crazy. When you're in a vehicle application, you have to be a little bit faster because now things are not as fast as the aircraft. It can be slowed down a little bit because things have slowed down a little bit. And then when you're in the infantry role, things can actually slow down quite a bit, especially in that support by fire, sustained fire application. So in the semi-automatic capacity, it's not terrible in that regard. Obviously, there is advantages to being able to rip off a belt. So it'd be nice if you had both options, like on a MG34, where you could shoot fully automatic or you could shoot semi-automatic. Unfortunately, it is what it is, and unless you got big bucks, you're stuck with a semi-automatic. So my thoughts on it is kind of, but you're giving up a lot as far as manpower goes to tote that thing around.
So I'm a yes and a no on the question. So yes, I think they can be effective, given that it's only used in a static fixed location, not portable, so that you can recover your links or belts and you're not trying to tote it around. And the benefit in that scenario that a belt-fed semi-auto gives you is the ability to do a long, controlled, sustained rate of fire without having to reload. In other words, if I got a 200-round belt and I fire a round a second, that's over 2 minutes of nonstop fire I'm putting towards you in a very controlled manner. Now, the only two that I would even look at for that purpose, well, I'll say three, is something like what you got, Brent, with that 1919, an RPD, or the FN saws. However, the caveat to those is I do not think they're financially worth it. You are filling out a ton of money for possible suspect reliability when you can do something like what we're talking about and get really, really close effectiveness wise with a lot higher rate of reliability, a lot less cost, and more versatility, because you can take what we're talking about and make it portable, obviously. So it's a yes and a no. I disagree with the guys that sit there, well, there's no point in a semi-auto belt fed. Give me one that's reliable and allow me to demonstrate what I can do with 200 rounds of sustained semi-auto fire. But it comes with those caveats. So Yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind of where my brain's at on it.
I
Obviously,
agree.
go with that.
I agree with you, John. I'm glad you brought up RPD too. I completely forgot for some reason that I had that. That's what happens when you got so many freaking firearms. Yeah, that's another one.
Oh,
Like I
the
love it.
horror that must suck for you so badly. I'm sorry.
I know it's terrible. It's just so bad, guys. You
It-
don't know what I go
I
through.
tell you what, as your good friend, I will help you out with that problem. I have space.
No,
Send what you need.
this is an addiction. I'm gonna have to defeat this problem myself. So
I'm here to help you, though. As a friend, we always help our friends when they have these issues, right? Consider
so
me
that
AA.
that RPD is a fun. I'm absolutely. I love the fact that I have it, but like I wouldn't trust my life with it. It's semi-automatic. That is.
Yeah.
But that 1919, that is very reliable. That I can't think of a single time where that's jammed on me. And when I mount that up to the tripod on a T&E, oh my God, guys, yeah, exactly what John was talking about. I could put suppressive fire on something for an extended period of time, but significant weight involved in that. And then, like John said, but if that was on if I had to defend a area, I would set that up on a main avenue of approach, right, oriented right down this trail or main road. And dude, I'm putting 7.62.
You ain't coming down it.
Right. Mine's 7.62 by 51. Man, can you imagine taking just countless 7.62 by 51 millimeter round after round after round, tearing into your vehicle or tearing in your, column that's moving up this road? Oh, brutal. So yeah, it has its worth for sure.
The psychological effect of nonstop fire from a single gun for over 2 minutes. Bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. If you've got an AG, that could last even longer because your belt just doesn't end.
Yeah. And I promise you, if you're on the receiving end of that, you aren't telling that that's semi-automatic. You're going to be thinking that that's full auto all day long.
Yeah, especially like the 1919, it never had a really high rate of fire.
Yeah, that was always a good thing about it. It was stupid controllable.
Mm-hmm.
But in talking about the controllability, Brent, going to something you were saying a while ago, like on my gun, the very, very first video I did of it, it just had a plain old GI trigger in it. And in the first couple of opening sequences, I was ripping off 3 and 4 bursts. And I had like countless people asking me if it was a register lower or what binary trigger I was running. I was like, it's just a GI trigger. I'm just bang, 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 bang. It's ridiculously effective. You don't have to get stupid fancy, guys.
Yeah. All right. What else you guys got? Got any more questions here? old brother Dick. Hell yeah, Brent. Tripod plus T&E for the win. Yeah, man. I'm telling you, you got that gun, that 1919 lockdown with that tripod and T&E. It's not moving, man. It's going to give you a nice tight beating zone on whatever avenue approach you're covering. So
yeah, and the great thing with that tripod and T&E is you can do all kinds of cool shit. You can shoot from defilade and not even be visible and just rain rounds on the enemy, kind of like a mortar, if you will. You can be locked into your sectors of fire and allow your troops to advance underneath this wall of lead. You can do all kinds of super awesome stuff with that hardware. The problem is you got to carry it unless you're in a static position.
Yep. Well, I'm not seeing too many more questions here, guys. So we're probably going to wrap it up here. What do we got for closing comments, guys? Kick it over to you, Mike. What you got?
Oh man. Well, if you guys are interested in one of these uppers, either RPK, AUG, or M60, feel free to contact me. Like I said, I do custom work. So if you got a special little project in your head, yeah, we'll get together and we'll make that happen. Again, you can reach out to me on Facebook, Klein Machining LLC, or send me an email, kleinmachiningllc@gmail.
Yeah, this is, and to clarify, the one I'm putting up here that's his AUG bipod variant. So if you guys are interested in that, that's one of them. What you got, John?
No, just, don't overcomplicate or overthink it. I think guys can get too carried away with trying to figure it out, and they overcomplicate the idea, and you don't. Just keep it simple and run with it. Either go with what Mike's doing, or if that's not feasible for you at the time, you can do like I did with just a simple 20-inch barrel and a bipod, and run with it. Like I was saying, Mike, that's on my list as I can scrounge up the scratches to get with you on either a 20 or an 18 and see what we can work out. I just gotta, along with things, get the funds allocated for it.
Yeah.
All right, I guess I'll say is, man, if you are that armed prepared citizen, I think you need one of these in your inventory. I mean, I'm come from the perspective that you need everything in your inventory, but this is a top, in my opinion, this is a top priority that you need to do, especially if you have a group of guys, like a group of 4 dudes that you reliably train with, and you guys have assigned roles. Like, hey, you're the team leader, you're the rifleman, I'm the automatic rifleman, and you need to carry something along these lines. With the binary triggers and the force reset triggers, I mean, those are very interesting, guys. And like, it seems like over the last few years, like the stuff that's been coming out, like the stabilizing braces and the force reset triggers, like I feel like we're headed in a very good direction in the gun community in regards to this stuff, guys. I think we're making a lot of headway, and it's going to get to the point where there's so much of this stuff out there that they've gone past the point of no return, right? You're not going to be able to, hand in millions of these things. And that's obviously a good thing if you're a pro Second Amendment guy. Like I know everybody here, with the exception of like the ATF agent that's peeking over the fence. But anyways, if you don't want to go the AR route, which I suggest, because ARs are the male Legos,
the Barbie doll.
Yeah, Barbie doll. That's what Larson used his suggestion the other day.
Yeah.
I suggest you go the AR. I mean, the parts are plentiful, guys. There's so many accessories out there for stuff. You can just put whatever optics you want. But if you don't want to go that route, long before I ever had an AR-RPK, I had RPKs, semi-automatic RPKs. I still have them. I've got a Romanian one, and I got a Yugoslavian variant, and that's 7.62x39, and those are fantastic. They have 30-round mags, they got 40-round mags, they got 75-round drums. That was a absolutely viable option that I used for many years to train with when doing that automatic rifleman role. But if the balloon goes up tomorrow and I'm filling the automatic rifleman role, I'm grabbing my AR-RPK with specifically my Klein Machining upper. Now I got to decide whether I want my RPK style bipod or my new awesome M60 bipod that I got from him. So.
I totally forgot while ago when we were talking about this. Let me throw this in there real quick. So I've got my 20-inch 5.56 gun, right? And I totally forgot to mention, I also have a 7.62x39, but it's my 16-inch KS-47 from Palmetto State that takes AK mags, and I set it up identical to my 20-inch 5.56 bipod, free-footed. But since it's an AR, but since it takes AK mags, I've got a 75 round drum for it, and then AK mags is backup to fill the same role. So you can get away with having that extra ability to do that. So like, say you've got a group of guys that are running AKs, but you want something a little more portable. So since it just has a 16-inch barrel, it still takes the same mags and ammo. Yes, it's an AR, but it still takes the same mags and ammo. So it gives me that capability on that bipod. It makes it portable. And honestly, with the 16-inch barrel, you're not really losing anything performance-wise, because for anybody that doesn't know, 7.62x39 is not real particular about barrel length. The difference between like, say a 12.5 inch barrel and a 20-inch barrel with 7.62x39 is very minimal change in the ballistics. The only thing a longer barrel would give you would be like what Mike was attesting to, of longer fulcrum point from maybe a little bit better control. So ballistically, not really a concern. Control-wise might be. Unfortunately, right now, all PSA is offering is in a 16-inch version, which is what I got. And oddly enough, so I put one of Primary Arms, one of their 1 to 6 variables on there that's calibrated for 7.62x39, so I could use the reticle property and the holdovers. Primarily just running it on 1X for the automatic rifleman roll. As a happy side benefit, I found that with that gun, and you crank it up to 6X, that at 200 yards, it's a easy DMR gun because the thing just shoots freaking stupid tight little groups. So I can throw it on the bipod with a drum in it on 1X. I've got that area denial, the automatic rifleman setup with a 20 round mag and dial it up to 6. I got a DMR gun out of it. So again, multi-use out of the same setup, just depending on what you're doing with it. So I forgot to mention I've got 2 of them. So
yeah, that the KS-47, I got one of those as well. And one of the cool things with it is it'll take standard 7.62x39 AR-15 barrels. So I know I've had guys in the past ask me, hey, can you make one of these uppers with a 7.62x39 barrel or a 308 barrel? And the answer is, well, if enough of you guys want one, of course.
Yeah, Mike was telling me about that up there at Winter Forge. Obviously, when you're sitting in freaking 15-degree weather, freezing, like you got to have some conversations. But he's like, I've had a few people ask me about these, but I have to order like a bundle of 100 barrels, and it's like just because 5 guys want one in 7.62x39 doesn't make up for the 100 barrels that he's got to order. So
I can relate to that from the 2 guys that I get per year that ask me to make black gear for them.
Oh yeah.
two orders of black gear a year does not make up for what I would have to order in material, webbing, thread, hardware, etc., to make those 2 rigs, and then I've got a pile of money sitting here doing nothing.
Yeah. What about you just take that material that everybody wants and then you just dye it black, and then you're like, hey, I've got this sweet all black camouflage pattern for you. How about that? And see if that works for him.
I actually told him that one time because he was wanting multicam black, and I'm like, how about I make you a multicam rig? You get you some black RIT dye and go to town.
Yeah.
See what happens. That stuff, that RIT dye though, it's kind of alchemy. You don't know really what you're gonna get. I recently just dyed some UCP level 5s dark brown, and they're freaking green.
Yeah, it's really funny. He was in the chow line at Winter Forge before it all kicked off, and it literally looks like the Russian digital camouflage. And he's like, I used brown RIT dye on this, and it turned forest green. I don't know what happened. I mean, it was hilarious.
Well, there you go, new market. Buy up all the old UCP you can find, dye it, sell it, profit.
Oh my goodness. You know what? I don't know if you guys are eager to wrap this up, but I just thought of something that we didn't cover. We didn't cover butt stocks whatsoever. So let's hit that before we end this. So plus I like BSing with you guys. So
I've got collapsible stocks on both of mine.
So I've run a lot of collapsible stocks. I think my opinion is I really like that RPK style stock where you can actually go and get a grip with your support hand behind it. Magpul makes a fixed stock that got a good shape to it. There's also some wood stocks out there that have a good shape to them as well. One of my clients, I think Brent might actually know the guy. I'll let you talk to that. Yeah.
I was just about to tell you, my good buddy Ken, who always plays the Viet Cong in my Vietnam movies for no reason I can think of. But he wanted to make his look like he wanted to make his look like an AK, or excuse me, an RPK. So he got wood furniture for everything on it. It's an AR-RPK made by Klein. But he got wood. He got a wood clubfoot buttstock, and he got wood handguards, and it looks awesome. I wish I had a picture available. I didn't.
I got one on your cell phone. You should have one in your text message if you want. Yeah.
I had to hide my phone because it kept vibrating. So
just to piggyback,
I showed on mine, but I'm streaming on it.
So just to piggyback on that, I've already got it in the back of my head because I've been planning this for a few months now. When I can ever get one from Mike, the fixed Magpul stock you were talking about is the one that I want to put on it just to have, because I think it makes a lot of sense on that one.
Yeah, it's super nice. I like it quite a bit. And then the other aspect of it is when you have a rifle length buffer tube and buffer, you're going to have that much more control because it's a softer cycling action. So
yep. Absolutely,
that's really what you want to go.
I don't know if this is going to work, but sorry, I didn't have a handguard, but you guys can see it's got the buttstock and the pistol grip, and that looks really sleek.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that's coming in good, Brent.
All right. Well, I guess we exhausted all topics now finally. So, all right, guys. Well, hell, we did this for an hour and a half. That was pretty good. It went longer than I expected. So,
yeah.
Again, just closing comments. Like, if you guys are interested in this thing, you can do two options. You can make your own, like what John did. He put a good package together. He's got several videos up on his channel. Make sure you go over to check them out. Alpha Charlie Concepts. He's got, how many videos you got, John, on this topic, on your build?
I think I've got a couple of them up. I took one of them down because I'm going to redo it, but the couple of original ones I've still got up.
Okay. Yeah, but go check those out. And he's also got videos on like, experimenting with the wide open triggers and that type of stuff. So, I mean, there's a lot of good information that you can extrapolate from his channel in this realm of topic. So go over there and check it out, Alpha Charlie Concepts. If you don't want to do that, regardless, he's got good information about triggers and stuff. Go over to his Small Team Supplies, his YouTube channel. Klein Machining is his company. He's got a Facebook page called Klein Machining, and you can see his projects with these uppers. And I mean, he can do just about anything you want. And he's got 3 different styles of bipod: the standard RPK style, the M60 ones, which I just got, and they look phenomenal. I'm very excited to get playing with those. Those are the ones that One Shepherd used. And then the Steyr AUG bipods, right?
Yeah. Yeah, now the Steyr AUG, they're made by Ratworks. So they're new production bipods for the AUG.
Yep, those right there. So, but you can go that route and select your barrel lengths and everything else. And I'm telling you guys, those are just phenomenal. And something I learned talking to Mike, he's been trying to design a carrying handle. He has the one that I have on mine. He made and said it was a prototype, but he's been like trying to refine this and make stuff. So eventually he's going to have a carrying handle just like the one that's on mine. But yeah, you can go that route. And guys, I mean, super easy. It's not that expensive to put these together, and they're absolutely vital and essential, in my opinion, for the armed prepared citizen. Those that are serious, that want to go beyond the, I want to protect my homestead, and like I want to protect my family up in the freaking woods when the world goes to shit kind of mindset. So
yeah, or my community,
yeah, or my community, exactly. But all right, guys, well, we'll close this out. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to leave a comment, and don't forget to check out these gentlemen's. Everything's reversed, by the way. There. Don't forget to check out these gentlemen's respective YouTube channels and websites. Thanks for watching.